Here in Hampton Roads, we have phenomenal individuals that are doing great things in business and sports and so many areas, but they've also decided to give back. Today, what we're highlighting are nonprofits and foundations here in the 757. It's Stay the Water. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Claville. We'll be right back in just a moment. Welcome back. It's Stay the Water. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Claville. As always, we want to thank you for joining us here on this Sunday as we broadcast from WNSB Hot 91 from the campus of the Norfolk State University in the great city of Norfolk, in the region of Hampton Roads, and the great Commonwealth of Virginia. As always, we've got with us our producer that keeps us right and tight, DJ Scandalous, also known as Marvin Folks, which you can hear live on this station every Monday through Friday from 2 to 6 p.m. and also Saturday as he mixes it up for us. Listen, we want to thank all of you for supporting us because without you, there's no way that we could do what we do here on State of the Water. Not only that, but I also want to welcome all the students that have come back to campus and all the new Spartans. Listen, this freshman class, this is your start to the best part of your life. So give it your all, enjoy everything about the Spartan experience, and go out and do great things. And listen, I say it all the time, Marvin, we've got some of the greatest alumni in the world. We got Spartans that are doing great things all over the country. And just phenomenal, whether it be business, whether it be science, whether it be whatever, you name it, they're doing great things. And today, we've got another great Spartan who's joining us that's going to talk about some of the great things that she's doing, but also not just in her profession, but in the nonprofit world. Listen, I'm excited to talk about these foundations that we've been highlighting during our community conversation series here on Stay the Water, and this particular nonprofit and this guest, I'm telling you, it just gets better and better. So I'd like to welcome here on Stay the Water, Miss Maia Chaka, NSU alum and the NFL first Black female referee. Maia, how are you today?
I'm doing amazing. How are you?
Well, listen, I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, but we are having a phenomenal time on this Sunday morning, like we always do. But we're going to have an even better time because you're joining us.
Well, thank you. I'm very appreciative to be on and just very humbled to be in your presence today.
Well, we know that you're a little busy these days because like all of us, we've been waiting for the start of the NFL season. And I know it's got you going back and forth.
Yeah, there's always something, but, you still have to make time for things that are important outside of football.
Absolutely. And, that's what we tell our scholar athletes here. It's more to the game of sports. It's a game of life, but the values, the lessons that you learn from it, you could take it and it transcends the field. It transcends the game itself, and you can actually take it in life. What are some of the things from your experience just that you've taken from the game and started and used in your life?
I think the big piece is just learning how to communicate with people. And, with me being a first at doing something, there's no one else that looks like me. There's no one else that talks like me, walks like me, that has gone through the same struggles I've gone through. So what that really challenged me to do was to just be able to diversify the way that I communicate with others. And, that just gave me even more power to want to be able to give back to my community, because it's almost like I have cheat codes now of how to deal with certain people, and to be able to give that knowledge, to our youth that are up and coming. I think that is just like second to none.
Wow. When I look at you and I see you sometimes in the games, I look and say, number one, I think about, our people and how, our fathers, our mothers, grandfathers, grandmothers, and others fought so hard, and our ancestors to get to this point where we can say, we've broken barriers. But I also think about all the young girls, all the young ladies that are looking at you saying, wow, I can do it too. And when you're out there, how do you wear that? Do you think about that? Is that a badge that you wear to yourself to say, hey, I'm actually doing this not just for me, but for others?
I think about it all the time because, I didn't get in, I didn't get into officiating to break a barrier. That wasn't my number one goal and my focus. I just wanted to do well. And that's all I wanted to do. But when you do break those barriers, you do carry a lot of responsibility. That comes along with that. And I have to be cognizant about that. And every decision that I make and everything that I do, there's always somebody watching. And, I just take that as a way to empower myself to always do well, knowing that at any given moment, I can influence somebody to do better or to do well in whatever avenue of life that they choose.
Absolutely. And speaking of doing well, is this particular month, we're highlighting, as I said in our Commonwealth Conversation series, we're highlighting 757 foundations. And one thing that we're taking a look at are individuals who are just doing great things in their profession and breaking barriers, as we just talked about. But they're deciding, what, it's just not about me, it's about others. And I want to take that next step, that extraordinary step, and create an entity in order to give back. And you've created something, a nonprofit, a foundation that I think is very fitting for the conversation we literally just had. And it's called Make Meaningful Change. Tell us, what is MMC and why?
Wow. So MMC, Make Meaningful Change. This came from, a lot of people know me as being an NFL official now, but, and I've been officiating just as long as I've been an educator. And, prior to this year, I've been a classroom teacher for 15 years, teaching health and phys ed in Virginia Beach. And I've only worked with pretty much like alternative students or like, I hate to call them at-risk youth because they all lump them in there.
Right.
I like to really identify them as students that just learn different. And then after a stint with Virginia Beach Public Schools, I worked with Achievable Dream Academy for a few months after that, when I started with the National Football League. But while I'm teaching or while I'm in education, I noticed that a lot of times people don't really look up to teachers. Everybody's so quick to put me on a platform and put me on a pedestal because I now have the NFL logo behind me. But the truth of the matter is I'm the same person I was, from the beginning, when I first got out of Norfolk State to the same person I am today. But the only thing that changed is like the NFL seal that's on me. And now it gives me more power in terms of what I want to do to be able to empower youth. And it gives me more of an influence on people. And I want to use that to my advantage and not necessarily flaunt my accomplishments, but getting back to what I really love. And that's education, and that's empowering youth, and that's changing lives and letting teachers know that we also value and support them, giving them that reassurance that they're going to need because, it's tough being in the classroom. It's tough being in education. We're losing so many really good teachers, just because some things just aren't adding up. The pay isn't the best for educators sometimes. Sometimes the way that they're treated by, students and sometimes by their colleagues and administrators, a lot of that eats away at you. And nobody really knows like what these educators go through like on a daily basis of having to get up and always put their best foot forward. And sometimes they're not always given the best in return. And so Make Meaningful Change not only supports youth, but we're an organization that supports education all the way around, and we support our community all the way around. Because the only way that we're really going to truly make a change and make a difference is if we have everybody on the same page working together. And, go ahead.
No, wow. I'm in the studio, Marvin and I, we're just we're just nodding our heads like, yeah, exactly. You're right. Because, we're in a day and time when you talk about education. And of course, we're here at Norfolk State University, your alma mater. And, with the assault, people see an assault on our educational system, from so many different angles. And we see this major shortage in teachers across the country. You got people that grew up wanting to be teachers, right? I had teachers, they love being teachers. But for some reason, you have a lot of individuals that are wanting to leave the profession. From your perspective, as an educator yourself, what is it that you love about teaching? When you left Norfolk State University, why did you say, hey, this is what I want to do?
So for me, I've always had it in me that I'm a servant leader. I get a lot of pleasure off of seeing other people do well and seeing other people flourish. So and that's just who I am as a human being. I'm a huge giver. Sometimes I overgive, but it's just because I want to make sure that everybody can experience, the same type of joy. And I really got that when I was at Norfolk State from Dr. Gwen Holmes, who's no longer with us. Like, she was someone, when I came down from New York, she took me under her wing like I was her own child.
Wow.
And she raised me, the same way she raised her two daughters. And you really can't replace that. Once you see it live in the flesh, what it really means to be an educator, to be a strong Black woman and somebody who's actually in my career field, and just seeing the way that she moves and the way that she made me feel and the way that she empowered me to do well. I just wanted to have that feeling and spread it around to everyone else. And so that was something that I got directly from Norfolk State.
Well, when we talk about the HBCU experience, it's more than just an education, but it's an experience that's an education for life. When you talk about, the servant leader, and I like how you put that, servant leader. And if you don't mind, I'm going to use that a little bit moving forward. But as you talk about the servant leader, that particular professor that took you under her wing and said, listen, I see something in you. And what our mantra here at the university is, we see the future in you. If that person wasn't there, can you say to yourself, where would Maia Chaka be today?
I think she put the icing on the cake. Yeah. Because I've always had that fire in my belly because of the type of household I grew up with. Even like my father, when I was young, like, he was real big on the community, and he was real big on us realizing who we are. And he's the reason why I went to a HBCU in the first place. So he planted the seed at a young age. Uh-huh. And so I knew exactly, who I was, and I knew the importance of community. I knew the importance of giving back and what it really means that it takes a village to raise a child. And then throughout my years, as we get a little older, you kind of lose track of those things, or you kind of sort of take for granted, especially when you're dealing with your own personal struggles, uh-huh. Going through school. And when I got to Norfolk State, I was able to finally exhale, because it just seemed like for so long, you're like in a jungle, or like, before I came to NSU, I went to a junior college, which was, predominantly white. Uh-huh. And it was really difficult there. It seemed like nobody appreciated me unless I was dribbling a basketball. Uh. And, to leave that environment and to actually, go somewhere where everybody is so nurturing and they just want to see you be a good professional and not just a good athlete. I think that's what Norfolk State did. And it just gave me a greater vision, and it just, really set the blueprint of who I will be as a professional.
Well, I like how you put that it was the icing on the cake. It's Stay the Water. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Claville. We want to thank you for joining us for the month of August. We're delving into our community conversation series as we talk about and discover 757 foundations, highlighting great individuals in our community that are doing great things by giving back, connecting to their passion and connecting it to the community in order to make a change. This Sunday, we have with us NSU alum and NFL referee, Maia Chaka, who's talking about her new nonprofit, making meaningful change, or make meaningful change. So Maia, when you talk about change, And I asked the question, where would you be, where would Maia Chaka be without that particular professor or without that nurture environment? When taking a look at your mission statement, you talk about make meaningful change as an all-encompassing community engagement organization with a focus on providing education and enrichment to disadvantaged youth. And you do it through what you call your stars, reaping the benefit of stars. Tell us about what those stars are.
Right. So STARS is an acronym, and this has been with me ever since I first started teaching. And I believe that if we develop these things within the youth, then they are going to actually become stars. And so the first one is self-esteem and self-image. As you heard me speak before, I had a really good idea of who I was at a young age because that was something that my parents gave me. And so if we instill and, we empower these kids at a young age, and sometimes they may, when they're a little lost and they may not know, but if we give them that vision and that sight early, then we've already started to put the fuel in them. Right. And so now they would have a clear vision of how they would move, what decisions they're going to make. Their self-confidence will go through the roof. Their decision-making is now enhanced. So that's really the focus on, self-esteem and self-image. And now once you know who you are, the next part of that is teamwork and leadership. You can be super confident and know exactly where you are, but now what are you going to do to help somebody else get over that hump? What are you going to do to help, somebody who's not as confident? How are you going to boost their confidence up? And, once you start putting that together, now the next piece that comes in is the academic achievement, which is the A. And, we're not a school, but what we want to do is we want to be able to provide support, to students in school and provide support to teachers. When we talked about teacher burnouts and a lot of times teachers are just so focused on them having to teach their content, and then they're stretched so thin because now they want them to run these after school programs and, and this and that. And there's just not enough time in the day for some of these people. So we want to be able to be that piece that is also supporting, teachers and supporting families. We want to be able to bridge that gap so we're not burning out these educators. So we're providing those extracurricular activities so they don't have to stay over and, and work that overtime or just get that little stipend or feel that the burden is all on them. And so that's where the academic achievement comes in. And then the R, it's just like reducing risky behaviors. And that just comes from, once you start making your decision making and you feel a sense of belonging, you feel like you belong to like a positive group. That's how we end up reducing those risky behaviors. And then the following S, or the last S, is success in the community. So once you put all that together, now it's your time to pay it forward. So everything that you learned up underneath us, you now have to bring up the next kid and bring up the next person. And so we just want to create this cycle of just empowering children and empowering youth or empowering educators, as opposed to creating like a toxic cycle where people are just burnt out and they're tired of school and they're sick of school. So we want to just be able to create this empowering cycle to where it just repeats itself over and over again. So we just keep recreating. Wow.
Implement stars in order to be a star. I love that. Pay it forward. I always like to say, pay it forward, pay it back, and don't forget how you got to where you are. You have such a rich philosophy here, and you say that it's not something you thought of, but it's been a part of you for a long time. So obviously you've got a lot to give to a lot of individuals, a lot of youth. Tell us, what youth are you targeting, and how can some of the youth that want to be a part of this, want to take advantage, how can they get involved?
So I specialize in working with secondary kids. So that's middle school, high school age. And if you notice, there are not a lot of activities that are out, really for middle and high school kids to be involved in, really outside of athletics. And, a lot of times kids don't get supported unless they're in athletics. There's tons of stuff once you go through elementary school, but I think middle school and high school is where we start to get that drop off as to where that disconnect goes with education. And for us, the way to get involved, we have our website, makemeaningfulchange.org. We have our Instagram page and all our social media pages, Make Meaningful Change, and just stay update with the things that we're doing with events. You can always just email us directly or reach us directly, like on our website. Our email is also info@makemeaningfulchange.org. But what we're really trying to do is, create an open dialogue and like just really a good partnership with our educators in our school system, so that these educators identify kids who may need additional help or may be interested like within these programs, and that they would also refer them or, and help feed them through our system as well. That's one aspect. And now the icing on the cake about MMC is that, I'm doing all the talking, and I'm out here and you see my face and everything,
Mm-hmm.
but this is not really my organization. Like, I'm completely governed by teenagers and youth. Like, every decision that is made for MMC, like, I have teams that I go directly to and they tell me, yes, this is good. No, this is bad. Like, this is really for youth by youth. It's
Wow.
catered by students. It's catered by teenagers. I have some 8th, 9th, and 10th graders who are my advisors, who I go to. Obviously, legally, they just can't have it, but I really work for them, and they're not going to let me put anything out that a kid won't like. But the lovely thing about that is these kids that I'm working with, they're so empowered now that I've given them that power, that they're recruiting and they're spreading the word, and they're like, hey, this is cool. Nah, this teacher's good. No, come over here, So, and that's the great thing about it also.
Wow. For kids, governed by kids, that's definitely a change. So listen, I can only imagine some of the things that they're telling you that they want. But of course it's to benefit them, but being a youth, you also need guidance. Tell us about some of the projects or things that they've asked you to implement that you thought was a great idea and you're currently working on.
The first thing is one of our kids, he's actually like our merchandise designer. So the t-shirt that you see on the website and what you're going to be seeing us wearing, he actually designed that.
Wow.
And said, this is going to be a good representation of what we are. And, so that was the first kicker. Pretty much everything that you see on the website, everything that you see was approved by a student, or I took their guidance as to where I should place things and what our color scheme should be. Like my logo, the MMC logo was created by the senior design class of Edison Tech High School in Rochester, New York, where I went to high school. So my high school alma mater created the logo. So when I tell you our entire image and everything you see is created by teenagers, because we need to see how talented these kids are. And it doesn't matter what they talk like right now or what they look like or what they wear. We have to see the value in them. And then once we meet them on that level, then we can empower them and teach them how to be professionals once we speak their language as well. Wow.
See the value in them, give them the opportunity to lead and empower them to be the leaders of tomorrow. I love it. I love it. I was thinking when you mentioned the individual that created the T-shirts and the logo. Listen, we got a show coming up right after this. My good friend Blair Durham, who's the co-founder of Black Brands. It's called Black Wall Street. The show here on that's coming up afterwards. So we got to get that young man locked in so he can start to benefit from some of that and create his own business. Because I'm looking at these T-shirt designs, and personally, I was, like I said, you and I were talking previously before the show, and I talked about how great the website looks and how phenomenal it is. But you're telling us now that this is all led by the youth.
100%.
Wow.
I do everything they tell me to do. But that's the way I was as a teacher, as a classroom educator. Everything was student centered. And so, of course, I provided the guidance and, the rules and the regulations and the expectations, but I never did that without them having input, because once they have input into something, they feel more empowered and they feel like that's something that they have to get behind because they created it.
Wow. That's right. That's right. Look, there's nothing that brings responsibility like ownership. And I like how you are seeing the future in them and empowering them. Maia, anytime that we do something, no matter who we are, it's not just ourselves, but like you said, it takes a village and a team. And part of your STARS acronym is teamwork. Tell us about the team that you have that's working with you to help make this a reality.
Man, I will tell you right now, I wouldn't be anywhere I am right now without my publicist, Jalen Brown. Like, she's amazing at, just giving me ideas and honing my crazy mind and helping I feed her all the ideas that these kids feed me, and then she just gives me good direction about where to put it so it makes sense so all the grown-ups will like it, because sometimes I'm like a kid too. So she's just been amazing at creating those opportunities and putting together our kickoff event, which is going to be at Maker's Craft Brewery September 2nd. It's a shameless plug, I'm sorry. From 7 p.m. to 10 p.m., where educators get in free, and general admission is a $20 donation, which that will go to fund our programs. So she's been amazing on that point. And a really close friend of mine who's also a Spartan, Lorenzo High, he played football at Norfolk State, and we've been teaching together. We taught together for quite a few years at the Renaissance Academy. And he's been also on board too. He's been one of my right-hand men that's been helping me out. And then I have Trayvon Hill, who is one of my former students from Renaissance, who was playing ball at Virginia Tech, and he played at Miami, and now he's out in Arizona. But, he's on board, and again, for the youth, by the youth. And so he's a direct product of my teaching and Lorenzo's teaching. And so he's just been, just helpful in terms of like reeling some of these kids in.
Oh, wow. Yeah. You know what? This is the second time that I've had a guest talk about Jalen Brown and JB Agency and the great things that she does. So we're going to have her on the show pretty soon to talk about what she's doing here in the area. But not only that, but when you talk about your team, when you talk about those who come from the Spartan Nation, Mr. High, and then the product of you who's helping with this, it just really shows that the more you pour into individuals, the more that they give back. My father would always say, he said, the greatest investment you can make is in people, because I surmise is because that's the only investment that we can make in this life that knows no limit of return. And it seems like you're getting unlimited return from what you're pouring into the people that you're mentoring. Can you talk about you mentioned a shameless plug, but actually I was going to go right to it. I want to talk about some of the events very quickly that you've had, that your kids have actually pushed you to do. And then what event do you talk a little bit more about the event that you have coming up for the teachers?
So we're pretty much, we're brand new. So our fundraiser event is going to be our first real official event. But some of the things that the kids are interested in, so the way that Make Meaningful Change works is we want to create these workshops where we partner with small businesses that are within, the 757, not just Norfolk, not just Virginia Beach. We want you from everywhere, because we're trying to target youth from everywhere. And so, just creating these workshops where we can create dialogue, where these kids can do creative things. They can have hands-on, experiences through these small businesses and learn skills. It could be, something as small as baking, because we have a young lady that makes treats that's on, that's a part of our committee. And she just has a passion for baking and wants to learn how to make wedding cakes. And she's actually starting her own business making treats. And so that would just mean the world to her to be able to be in a nice hands-on workshop where somebody's just talking about cake decorating, because now that's a nugget that she could take back. We have another young lady who just wants to learn about culture. She goes, we should just have a workshop one day when we're just talking about different cultures, or really the real culture, like not the culture that they're teaching us in school. Like, we want to learn. So they're giving me these great ideas of everything that they want these workshops to look like. And they said, well, other kids will come too, because kids want to know this stuff. We have another young man who wants to learn about, cryptocurrency and really how to invest, and things about Wall Street. Like, these are all things that they're not teaching in the classroom that these kids can learn now. Especially with how much is going on in social media. Like, everybody wants to become an entrepreneur. They want to become, their own boss. And so most of the workshops and things that we're looking at, we're looking at things that are going to give them these entrepreneurial skills, so that when it is time for them to go to college, that, at that point they're going for business, or they're going for marketing. They're learning how to really shop around these skills that they've learned. And so it's not like you're just going to school and coming out with a degree and you can't use it.
That's right.
Which is the reason why so many people are discouraging people from going to school, because they didn't go to school the right way. So once you teach them exactly how to look for opportunities for school, how to look for opportunities to grow your business and to grow yourself as a profession, that's when you're going to get the buy-in from the youth. And that's really what they want. These kids, they want to learn how to make money now. Yeah. Well, and you can, if you learn how to restore sneakers and customize sneakers, you got a whole side job you can do, and you don't have to report to anybody but yourself.
Look.
And so that's what it's all about.
Well, look, I just know one thing, that if they had a teacher like you, then the sky's the limit because of the way that you see the future of them and empower them. But Maia, it's always great to talk with you, always great to have you here, giving back to NSU. You give back quite a bit, and we're so thankful to have you as an alum. But for those of you that are listening, and once again, to get involved, to learn more about this phenomenal foundation here in the 757, go to makemeaningfulchange.org. That's makemeaningfulchange.org. Go to their social media, find out about the events, find out how to get involved, how to support the youth and the educators as well. Maia, we thank you so much for what you're doing. And for those of you that are listening, continue to join us every Sunday at 10 a.m. And if you missed this particular segment or any segment, go to our YouTube channel, go to our social media, and feel free to play the playback. As always, be good, be great, God bless, and we'll see you next week.